Welcome. This is tutorial 7 of the Orthographic and Isometric Principles, taken from the Grade 8 Technology and Engineering Graphics and Design workbook. There are a few important questions that you need to answer before you start your drawings. Is the drawing that I'm looking at in 2D or 3D? On our left-hand side, we see a 2D representation of a view of a model. On the right-hand side, we see the 3D representation of that same model in 3D, where we can see now more than one view of that object. Is the drawing that I'm looking at in first or third angle projection? On our left-hand side, we see the first angle orthographic projection symbol. And we saw the schematic of the 2D orthographic views, as well as the 3D cube for an isometric drawing. On the right-hand side, we see the third angle orthographic projection symbol, along with the 2D schematic view of our orthographic views and a 3D isometric cube. Which projection symbol must be used for first or third angle projections? On our left, we see the symbol that we always will have to indicate with any orthographic and isometric drawing when we do first angle drawings. On the right hand side, we will see the symbol that we always need to indicate for any of those same third angle orthographic drawings. Should I draw a diagram or a 3D cube? On our left hand side, we see the 2D orthographic diagram. Here we will draw the 2D representation of a model, where we have the front, top and left view for first angle. On the right hand side, we see the 3D cube, which will represent the top, front and left view of the model, and that is what we will be drawing if we need to draw an isometric view. How many views are given? We have to inspect closely to the views that have been provided to us in our question. In order for us to draw the isometric answer of our model, we need to have enough information in the question provided to us. On the far left, we see that all three views of the model has been provided. All these examples are in first angle. In the middle, we see that only the front and top view of our model has been provided, but the information here should be sufficient for us to be able to draw the full 3D model of our question. On the far right, we see that only the front and left view has been given, and in this case the top view has been omitted. With all the dimensions that are provided along with the question, we should still be able to answer our question. How many views are asked to be drawn? On the left hand side, we have the 3D isometric view with all of the dimensions included. The question reads as follows. Make use of the given isometric view and draw the orthographic views using the X and Y axis provided. The drawing is given in third angle orthographic projection. Also draw the symbol in the space provided. On our right hand side, I have already drawn all three of the views in third angle as an answer. The question did not specify the front, top and right view, but if there was no mention to specific views, you need to draw all of the views. If the question specifically states that you only need to draw the front and right or the front and top view, then you would not need to draw the third view. Are there any constructions to be drawn? Center lines, hidden detail and projection lines must be drawn. If you had to draw this drawing in isometric projection, you would construct the isometric circle. The constructions of the isometric circle would then have to be shown. Remember to never erase any constructions that show how you got to your answer. Only excess lines may be erased, and that only up to 3 to 5 millimeters away from the existing drawing. Are there any auxiliary views to be drawn? On our left hand side, we see a 3D isometric view of a hexagonal pyramid. On the right hand side, we show the auxiliary view of the base of that hexagonal pyramid. You could not draw the isometric view of the hexagonal pyramid if you did not at first draw the auxiliary view of that pyramid. Therefore, in this case, an auxiliary view is necessary. Is the example given a schematic drawing or not? On our left hand side we see like a skeleton version of the roof section on the right hand side. There are more detail to the drawing on the right hand side, and therefore we refer to it as a 2D detailed view. This will show us more detail about the section of the roof. On the left hand side we see only the skeleton part of that roof, which we call a schematic view of that drawing. Is the example given an oblique drawing? On our left hand side we see a 3D isometric view at 30 degrees of a model. On the right hand side we see the oblique views of that same model but not drawn at an angle of 30 degrees. Therefore, if it's not drawn at 30 degrees, the model will be called an oblique drawing, or we can say it has an oblique view. Do I need to show hidden detail? The best rule to follow is to do what the question asks. I teach my students to underline the keywords of a question as they read through that question, as I show here on the detail of the questions. On the left, they have provided an isometric drawing, and we need to draw the orthographic views of that drawing, and it needs to be drawn in third angle. Nowhere does the question stipulate that you need to draw hidden detail. Therefore, it's best to leave out the hidden detail from your answer. On the right hand side, it clearly states that we have to draw hidden detail and show all our constructions. Therefore, in your answer, you will add the hidden detail for the drawing on the right. Where should I indicate center lines? On the presentation, we have 3 examples to show the use and application of center lines. On the far left, we show the middle of the shape using center lines. As the base of the hexagonal pyramid is a symmetrical shape, therefore we have to use center lines. In the middle, we have the auxiliary view of the base of the center lines, and here we use the center lines to indicate the distance from the center to the edges of our construction. On the far right, we use the center lines to indicate the center of the circle, also the touch points of our construction for the edges of our circle onto the cube. Do I need to add any labels? Labels help to identify reference points to any given drawing. Here we have the hexagonal pyramid once again with the auxiliary view provided. We label all of the corners and edges of the construction of our auxiliary view and carry those labels over to the base of our hexagonal pyramid given in our isometric answer. We keep the exact same positions, as this will help us to do the transfer of our measurements accurately onto the isometric answer. Which labels do I need to add? Labels must add clarity and be of an added value to a drawing. Labels should not confuse the understanding of any drawing. I only add labels to a drawing that will help to communicate what the drawing represents. Do I need to add dimensions? The best rule is to follow what the question is asking. Dimensions gives proportional size to an object, or a precise size to an object. Remember that you are working against time when you do a drawing in a test or an exam, and that the more information you add to the drawing, the longer it will take for you to complete that drawing. Which dimensions do I need to add? Do what the question asks. Dimensions that are not provided must be assumed in good proportion to the layout of the rest of that drawing. Dimensions that are critical to understanding certain sizes of the areas of an object must be added. The question will tell you whether or not you should add all dimensions or just some of the dimensions. Sometimes the question indicates by markers which dimensions need to be added. Do I need to indicate a scale? Do what the question asks. The size of your drawing paper or working space will have an effect on the scale that you do use. Scales give proportional size to an object. The scale that will be used is directly related to the type of drawing or design you are trying to draw. The most common scales used in school drawings are 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 to 50, and 1 to 100. Each of these will represent a certain type of drawing. Do I need to show projections? Provided is a 2D orthographic diagram with the top, front, and right view already drawn in. Projections show reference distances from one view to the next. This method can help to understand projections from one view to the next. It also helps save time with certain drawings that are a bit more complicated. The green lines here represent the projection lines, which will help with the height, length, and depth of each of the views projected to the next. Has a grid been provided? It is important to understand whether or not your answer should be drawn on a grid paper or on a blank sheet of paper. Usually we use grid paper for the junior phases in drawings. The senior phases mostly make use of a blank sheet of paper. You will draw your answer on the type of paper that has been provided for you. Make sure you read your question properly in order not to incur penalties when you draw on the wrong type of paper. To what scale is the grid paper provided? Well, this will depend on the type of drawing that you do, and in most cases we will use a 5mm grid paper or a 10mm grid paper. But this can be varied depending on what the purpose of your design or drawing would serve. On what size paper do I need to provide my answer? Work with what has been provided to you. In the senior phases, we mostly make use of an A3 size paper. And for junior phases, we mostly make use of an A4 size paper, although this is not a fixed rule. The type of drawing that you are required to draw will determine the size of the paper that you use. In school, we mostly make use of A4 and A3 paper. Is a diagram provided? You must work with what has been provided to you on your answer sheet, or what was stated in your question. On our left-hand side, we have a diagram provided on a grid paper. On our right-hand side, we have a diagram provided, but no grid paper. Therefore, we need to make sure that we have drawn in the margin lines next to our X and Y axis. Are margin lines provided with the orthographic drawing? You must work with what has been provided to you on your answer sheet. In this case, only the X and Y axis as well as the 45-degree line has been provided to you. Therefore, you will need to draw in the X and Y margin lines onto your diagram. Has a starting point been provided? We make use of the capital letters SP as an abbreviation for the starting point. Start from the starting point provided on the paper. If no starting point or center lines has been provided on the paper, you will have to consider the size of your drawing. Look closely at the dimensions given onto your question and then space your drawing on the workspace of your paper in such a way that all of the heights and views and angles will fit into your answer sheet. When drawing an isometric drawing, it is best to start your auxiliary view using the center lines provided and then also drawing your auxiliary view in one of the corners of your paper. Also start your isometric drawing as low as possible and as close to the middle of your paper. Congratulations! You have successfully completed the tutorial.